Welcome, our beloved viewers, to RTD's News English Edition. We begin tonight's news with the major in top highlights. The head of state chairs the meeting of the Council of Ministers. In the international scene in Algeria, a pharmaceutical industry in full development. Those were our major top highlights. Welcome back to our newsroom, our beloved viewers. Under the chairmanship of the head of state and head of government was held the 12th session of the Council of Ministers, where 6 issues were on the agenda. Let's listen to the report of the spokesman of the government on the first 3 questions.
Sous la présidence du chef de l'État, son Excellence M. Ismaël Omar Guelleh, s'est tenue la 12e séance.
During the 12th session of the Council of Ministers, the following texts were examined and approved. First issue, draft finance law on the amending budget of the state for the fiscal year 2022. The amending budget of the state for 2022 is presented in balance with revenues and expenditure. The budget is down by more than 4 billion Djibouti francs compared to the initial budget voted at the beginning of the 2022 year. This contraction is in domestic resources, with a drop in royalties on petroleum products linked to the subsidies implemented by the authorities to curb the rise in prices at the pump, and a drop in external resources linked to a sharp decline attributable to the investment projects on grants. On the expenditure side, the rectifying budget also foresees a decrease in recurrent and capital expenditure. The draft amending law also incorporates new measures designed to broaden the tax base and is part of the continuing policy of fiscal rigor and the consolidation of the state's finances. Thus, this bill illustrates the government's desire to ensure a fiscal framework conducive to the economic growth and development. The orientations provided for in its bill remain focused on rationalization of public spending, the search for savings, and the tangible and more efficient improvement of the results of the tax administration. Second issue, draft order allocating a plot of land located in Belbele South to the Ministry of Social Affairs and Solidarity. The purpose of the draft order is to allocate a plot of land located in Belbele South to the Ministry of Social Affairs and Solidarity with an area of 12 hectares. The said plot of land is intended to host the Qatar Charity Village project. Third issue, draft law on the creation of the support fund for disabled. The purpose of the bill is to institutionalize Disability Support Fund. It is clear that despite the strengthening of the legal framework in the field of disability, people with disabilities are particularly affected by inequality, discrimination, prejudice, and isolation. The objective of this DSF is to finance national programs for the prevention and management of disability in all its forms. This tool will also make it possible to finance training and entrepreneurship promotion actions, as well as activities that provide an immediate and appropriate response to crisis and emergency situations. In addition, the DSF will serve to strengthen the economic empowerment of people with disabilities. The objective of the creation of the fund is to improve the inclusion of this category of the population in society and their socio-economic condition.
The board then considered and approved 3 other issues. Let's listen again to the report of the government spokesman.
Concerning the Ministry of Higher Education and Research. Fourth question, draft law relating to the activities of launching, operation of flight, and guidance of space objects. The initial objective of realizing a nano-satellite was widened since from now on the 2 nano-satellites that our executives develop currently. Djibouti 1A, which is being finished for its construction and whose final tests should be completed by the end of 2022, will be launched during the second quarter of 2023. Djibouti 1B, identical to the first one, in which will reinforce its mission of collecting meteorological data on the Djiboutian territory, will be completed a few months later and should be launched during the fall of 2023. These activities of realization and production of satellites will allow Djibouti to join the vanguard of states active in the field of space activities. To this end, the law governing national space activities will soon be submitted to the legislature. This law will allow operators to establish themselves in Djibouti and carry out their activities activities under Djibouti's jurisdiction, and this legislation defines the concepts of space objects and operators by providing for the case of non-operating space objects. This text also establishes a national register of space objects that will enable Djibouti to register to satellites or other devices that it may have launched within the meaning of the United Nations International Treaties on Space. The law organizes between Djiboutian state and the operator a system of shared responsibility for any damage that may be caused by the space activity. This draft law has a dual purpose to ensure the legal and material security of operational space activities conducted under the Djiboutian jurisdiction and to develop a legal framework adequate to the reception and growth of this sector in Djibouti. Issue 5, draft decree on the establishment of a regional research observatory of the environment and climate. Climate change is now at the center of global concerns because of its devastating effects on the environment. Despite a marginal contribution to the emission of greenhouse gases, the IGAD region is among the regions most affected by its impacts. In his speech on May 4, 2015 at the Environment Risk and Opportunities Summit, the President of the Republic announced the creation in Djibouti of a regional observatory for climate change. The objective is to overcome the lack of accurate climate data in East Africa and to provide a high-level scientific research platform for all researchers in the region to refine their studies on climate and environmental data necessary for all adaptation strategies and sustainable resilience. As the headquarters of IGAD, our country is at the forefront of scientific research as a reliable solution to prevent natural disasters and conflicts in the region. Under the supervision of the Ministry of Higher Education within the CERD, the Regional Research Observatory for the Environment and Climate is now equipped and operational, proof that the climate initiative of the head of state is on the move. The purpose of this is to institutionally establish the OREC, which will be inaugurated on October 23, 2022 during the conference to be held in Djibouti. For the Ministry of Economy and Finance in charge of industry, 6th question, draft decree granting insurance company approval to the public limited company called Trust Insurance. The purpose of the draft decree is to grant approval to the company governed by law number 4 year 1999 and 40th legislature of June 8, 1999, setting the regulation applicable to insurance companies. The insurance sector is among the essential sector for the economic and social development of our country. Since the establishment and the implementation of this regulation, which led to the restructuring of the supply market, it should be noted that the management of the effect of this restructuring on the public transport risk branch and the transfer of premium and claims portfolios has not seen any evolution in the proposal of new insurance products. The present project will allow Trust Insurance to benefit from the insurance company license in order to offer to our fellow citizens and to all legal and state entities classic insurance, reinsurance, and social welfare products from health insurance to supplementary pension.
The Prime Minister, Mr. Abdul Ghadir Kamil Mohammed, received yesterday late morning the Vice President of South Sudan, Mr. Taban Deggal, accompanied by a strong delegation. Arrived the day before in Djibouti for an official visit, the Vice President of South Sudan was carrying a message from the President of South Sudan, Mr. Salva Kiir. The message was about the willingness of South Sudan to work towards the final launch of a strategic series of economic and development partnerships between the two countries. As a major logistics hub, the Republic of Djibouti is intended to serve as a platform for relaying resources, especially energy resources of South Sudan, a landlocked country. Our country has also profiled to provide technical expertise and significant added value to South Sudan in its determination to establish an efficient process of exploitation of dry and river ports. Information and communication technology is also a sector that will be the subject of sustained cooperation between the two countries. The Ministry of Roads, Mr. Siman Mijokmajak, the Ministry of Transport, Mr. Mahdoud Biryal, and the Minister of Communication, Mikael Mikoui Lewis, accompanied, among others, the Vice President of South Sudan. On the Djiboutian side, the Secretary General of the Prime Minister's Office, Mr. Naguib Abdullah Mohamed Kamil, the Minister of Communication in charge of Posts and Telecommunications, Mr. Radwan Abdullahi Bahdon, the Minister of Infrastructure and Ecomet, Mr. Hassan Muhammad Ibrahim, and the Chargé d'Affaires of the Republic of Djibouti to the Republic of South Sudan, Mr. Hassan Roble Mahmoud, were present at this event. The Minister of Communication in charge of Ports and Telecommunications, Mr. Radwan Abdullahi Bahdon, signed yesterday a memorandum of understanding in the field of ICT with his South Sudanese counterpart, the Minister of Communication, Mikael Mikoui Lewis. The signing of agreement between the two states took place at the People's Palace in the presence of Prime Minister Abdul Ghadir Kamil Mohammed. The signing is part of the final launch of a strategic series of economic and development partnerships between the two countries. Both parties intend to use their best efforts and capacity in good faith to work together to achieve the objectives of the Memorandum. This project is part of a larger program to develop essential communication systems and infrastructure in southern Sudan, as well as connectivity and access to information between the two countries, and also to facilitate southern Sudan's access to international networks. On the sidelines of the ceremony, the South Sudanese vice president and members of his delegation were given a guided tour of the landing station of submarine telecommunications company cables located in Hormuz. The delegation was welcomed on arrival by the Director General of Djibouti Telecom, Mr. Mohamed Assoui Bouh, and the Minister of Communication responsible for Posts and Telecommunications, Mr. Radwan Abdullahi Bahdon. This guided tour will have allowed Vice President Tabandeng to take a full measure of the technical capabilities of the national telecommunications operator, as well as the various advantages offered by these submarine cables, which supply several countries in the sub-region. The Minister of Communication in charge of Posts and Telecommunications, Mr. Radwan Abdullahi Bahdon, was pleased with this agreement between the two countries in the field of information technology and communication. Still in the news of the country, the important South Sudanese delegation led by the Vice President, Mr. Tabandeng Gai, had yesterday morning a meeting with the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Cooperation, Mr. Mahmoud Ali Yusuf. Upon his arrival, warmly welcomed by the head of the Djiboutian diplomacy, Mr. Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, the South Sudanese delegation led by the Vice President, also composed of several ministries, including the Ministry of Information, Communication and New Technologies and Posts, the Ministry of Transport, and the Ministry of Roads and Bridges, as well as the Ambassador David Dang, head of the relations with Ethiopia and Djibouti. The chairman of the Djibouti Ports and Free Zones Authority, Mr. Obakar Umar Hadi, and the Minister of Transport of South Sudan signed yesterday a memorandum of understanding concerning the construction and development of 6 preparatory ports. This signing will allow South Sudan, a landlocked country, to be connected to the world via the ports of Djibouti through the road corridor. It should be noted that there are already 2 corridors, one of which is operational. On the sidelines of the signing of this agreement, Mr. Hadi and Mr. Mudit Burial had a discussion mainly on the development of a refinery project in the pipeline, whose intention of South Sudan to export its natural gas from the ports of the Marjok. It should be recalled that recently the South Sudanese Refineries and Pharmaceutical Company already owns a land lease from within Djibouti International Free Trade Zone for a period of 50 years to store oil tanker equipment. This delegation also had the opportunity to visit our port infrastructure. The agenda of this meeting was the relations between the two countries, and the ways and means to strengthen it were discussed between the two parties. In a speech delivered on this occasion, the Minister of Transport of South Sudan expressed his objective in moving to Djibouti. Let's follow.
Here to Djibouti to sign an MOU is actually to cooperate and encourage the authorities of Djibouti port to invest in the Republic of South Sudan and also to help train our people in South Sudan on river ports of Great Nile and also to help in opening the channels from areas along the Nile, the port starting from Bor to Adok to Malakal to Legno to all ports, Shambi also, that is also an important port that actually we need to develop by our partner here in Djibouti, and that is also a natural highway that will benefit the two countries. Like Djibouti now, along the Red Sea, is also endowed by a natural highway, and this also, they have enough aspirant to come and develop our river ports in South Sudan, and that will also benefit the country of Djibouti and the people of Djibouti, because South Sudan also is endowed with a lot of resources that will actually be for the common benefit of the two countries. And today we are very happy, and we're being led by the Vice President for Infrastructure Cluster, and we have seen the development of this port, and we hope that the Djibouti port authorities will also try to develop our thing.
As for the president of the Ports and Free Zones Authority of Djibouti, Mr. Obakar Umar Hadi, expressed his gratitude towards the visit of the South Sudanese authorities. Let's listen to him.
Very thankful for this visit from South Sudan. We are working with South Sudan for a very long time. We started looking to South Sudan on 2006 during the CPA, Comprehensive Peace Agreement. So finally, our effort is going to be materialized today, from now on. So we are working with the Ministry of Infrastructure in South Sudan on development of river ports, connecting road and railways to South Sudan, not only to make Djibouti an hub, but also to make South Sudan a transit country for other landlocked countries. So there is a lot of business opportunities between the two countries that South Sudan youths will benefit. We are ready also to provide the training here. We are going to start the 17th. I think yesterday we started the first promotion of the Center of Maritime Excellence. So we had only Kenya, Uganda, and Ethiopia, about 7 students. And always we reserve 30% of the students for the whole of Africa and East Africa to be trained here in the transport and logistic and maritime sector. So we were discussing a long time also for the pipeline. Very soon we believe the pipeline going to the north will be full. So it's time to build the second one. And it's been very wise decision from the government of South Sudan to build a pipeline going to the east. It's more economical, and the oil fields are located in the northern parts of South Sudan, Bentiu and the other area. So it's more economical. This is about business, and Djibouti government and people have always supported your struggle. We are the same people. We know each other for a long time, 1,000 years, but we have been cut 100 years now. So it's very good that the family is back, and we are back to you.
Under the chairmanship of the Secretary General of the Prime Minister's Office, Mr. Naguib Abdullah Kamil, was held a meeting of the Platform of Secretaries General this morning, Tuesday, September, at the People's Palace. The General Secretaries of the various ministerial departments took part in this meeting. The agenda of the meeting focused on the organization of the next government retreat, but also on the verification of the staff of the department. The General Secretaries praised the importance and relevance of the platform's meetings, which constitute a lever for information sharing, reflection, and awareness of the issues at stake in the reforms of the public administration. In his speech, the Secretary General of the Prime Minister's Office, Mr. Naguib Abdullah Kamil, highlighted the upcoming government retreat and the review of the number of ministerial staff. The Minister of Social Affairs and Solidarity, Mrs. Ulufa Ismail Abdo, accompanied by her collaborators, such as the Secretary General of the Ministry and the Director General of the ADDS, as well as the authorities of the region, went to Asamo and Dasbio, located in the region of Ali Sabeh, for the launching of the Emergency Social Protection Project. After receiving a warm welcome in the two localities, the Ministry of Social Affairs and Solidarity and her delegation met with the communities to explain the two main objectives of her official visit to Ali Sabeh. During this official visit, the minister was keen to hear the governance of the two communities of Asamo and Dasbio and to announce the official launch of the Emergency Social Protection and Food Crisis Response Program. Funded by the World Bank, the Emergency Social Protection Project's main mission is to strengthen food security and empower nearly 20,000 households. The visit of the Ministry of Social Affairs and Solidarity ended with field visits of the infrastructure built by ADDS, such as the honey processing room. She also participated in the distribution of stoves to households and visited the historical cave of Dasbio. This morning, after receiving the Saudi delegation at her office, the Ministry of Youth and Culture presided over the signing of an agreement between the Dar al-Malik Abdul Aziz Foundation and the National Agency for the Promotion of Culture. The Center of the Library and National Archives hosted the signing of the agreement on cooperation, training, and information exchange on cultural themes between the Republic of Djibouti and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. After a guided tour of the Saudi delegation led by the representative of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the premises of the library and the National Archives placed to the signing of the said convention. Finally, the Saudi delegation wanted to pay a courtesy visit to the Memorial Dam of Djibouti under the supervision of the Director of the National Agency for the Promotion of Culture, welcomed the signing of this agreement, which she said will undoubtedly contribute to the development of cultural promotion in the Republic of Djibouti. The biometric enrollment for the new identity card will now allow the paperless data of civil status. But how about obtaining it? To know this, a team of RTD moved yesterday to the direction of the population to see how to acquire the identity card in the information for all people to know.
We are currently in the screening office. This is where we check the qualification of the applicant's file and its orientation. My colleague here is going to check the reliability of the documents given by the applicant. This is a very quick and simple procedure that will be completed in a short time, and then we will move on to biometric enrollment. And now you will give your name to my colleague who will check the reliability of your documents. We have just completed the second step, which is verification. We will now move on to step 3, which is biometric enrollment, and we will go through together. Follow me. Here we are at the third step of the obtaining the biometric card. This is the final step in obtaining the national identification number. This national identification number will now follow the citizen in all his administrative documents. In this biometric registration phase, demographic and biometric data will be linked to the applicant's national identification number. This new system is totally different from the old one because the particularity of this new system is the availability of a fingerprint scanner to obtain the biometric data of the eyes and the camera. Now, I will let you continue the biometric enrollment procedure with my colleague who will take your fingerprints and complete your data. The applicant's demographic and biometric data have been entered into our system. Phase 3 for obtaining the national identification number is complete. We will now proceed to payment. Join me. We will now proceed to the payment. Our applicant will pay 500 francs only because the 2,500 francs have been waived by the state as part of the exchange procedure for new deposits. Each applicant will have to pay 500 francs to obtain the national identification number and 2,500 francs for the identity card. Step 4 of the payment process is now complete. We will move on to the step 5, which is the biometric enrollment of the identity card after obtaining the national identification number. My colleague no longer needs to re-enter the applicant's demographic information, so the ID card stage is faster. This completes the entire enrollment processes for biometric card. You have just discovered with us today the whole procedure to follow to obtain the new biometric identity card. I would like to inform the general public that the General Directorate of Population and Family has made available to the citizens 5 enrollment centers in the 5 districts of the capital. Therefore, there is no need to travel far. You will be able to go to the district closest to your home to obtain your new card.
The biometric card is today a leap towards modernity and innovation, a godsend for the average citizen. Here is a special report from the editing team of the RTD.
Djibouti now has fully biometric administrative documents. The Law Number 39, year 2019 of the 80th Legislature on the creation of the National Register of Natural Persons and the National Identification Number was enacted on January 21, 2019. The National Identification Number, a process that will identify the physical person by means of a unique univocal code that will integrate its attachment to a geographical space. An important program that will accelerate the digital transformation underway in the Republic of Djibouti under the leadership of the head of state. The implementation of this multi-purpose biometric registration system will concern national identity cards and will also allow to register and keep records of birth, deaths, marriages, driver license, as well as vehicle registration cards and foreign workers cards. This project will make Djibouti a country with fully biometric administrative documents and develop direct data exchange between administrations. As part of the program of official documents and meet the expectations of users to simplify access to services on request of administrative documents and civil status, but also to deal quickly with grievances by the fact that the implementation and management of this important program is entrusted to the Directorate General of Population and Family. To achieve this database, the Ministry of the Interior has opted for the establishment of 4 registration centers, including the districts of the capital, functional for 6 months to facilitate the registration procedures and bringing these services closer to their living areas. The centers are well equipped in the form of an integrated counter to not put the Djiboutian population to exchange all their administrative documents with Dermalo, a German company renewed worldwide in this field at the forefront for physical biometric data. The enrollment centers take fingerprints, eyes, and face recognition. Then comes to the behavioral process, which consists of signing universal data that is unique to each individual. From now on, every individual, whether you are in Djibouti or not, will be identified by a unique ID number for a lifetime. It is important to remember that the procedure of exchange of the digital identity card is completely free.
Education and vocational training to strengthen the monitoring and control of approved schools and on formal instructions from the Ministry of Education. The Director of Private and Associative Education, Mr. Abdullahi Mahmoud Jama, and his Jibiri, Mr. Muhammad Musa, conducted an inspection visit to the school of the complex of Al-Rahma. They were warmly welcomed by Mr. Abdullah Fatouh, Director of the Educational Complex, who was responsible thereafter to present in detail the mode of operation of the institution. The programs taught the planned extension projects. To this end, the representatives of MEMFOP were invited to the inauguration of the new premises reserved for basic education. The Director of Private and Associative Education, Mr. Abdullahi, expressed his satisfaction with the functioning of the educational structures, the pleasant living environment of the school, the cleanliness and the organization of the school for this new school year. Following the visit, the General Manager of Al-Rahma Complex, Mr. Abdul Ghani, gave a direction to Mr. Abdullahi Mahmoud Jama because of his efforts and those of the Ministry to promote quality education for all. Shifting gears towards the international scene now, in just a few decades, Algeria has become one of the leading pharmaceutical producers in Africa. More than 2.5 billion euros worth of medicines were produced last year. Some 200 production units cover nearly 70% of the country's generic needs. This is a godsend in times of increased tensions on the international market. Several reforms were made about a paradigm shift in the country, where health products have gone from being a budgetary envelope to a lever for growth. The other private laboratory program has recently started marketing oncology products, addressing drugs which require complex infrastructure and massive investments to develop in Sweden. Well, by this, our beloved viewers, we finally conclude this edition. Thank you for being with us, and make sure to tune in later for more. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you once again. Take care.